We are back in Columbus, Ohio, and this is officially my favorite part of the Love is Blind experiment because this is where everything starts falling apart and people start showing who they really are. Seven couples got engaged without seeing each other and they survived a trip to Mexico. Now they have to live together and face real life and real problems together. For the next 2 weeks, the couples are moving into shared apartments and they will have to deal with work, family, habits, social media. Basically, everything that builds compatibility will be put under scrutiny. I will be breaking down each couple and we'll get into the absolute chaos that was the couples meetup, continue with the weddings, and finish with some reunion thoughts. But let's start with the mess first. Chris and Jessica. Chris and Jessica actually start off looking really fine together. I was actually rooting a bit for them. We see them cooking together, we see them visiting each other's places. We also see them discussing where they would move after the wedding. Basically, things are looking really well for this couple, and Jessica even shares that she cannot wait to come home to him after a long shift at work. But fast forward a few days and Chris disappears overnight. He doesn't communicate about his whereabouts and he comes back acting completely cold. And all he says is,
48 hours is not a big deal.
"Excuse me, sir, this is your fiance you're talking to." But then it gets worse because Chris basically says that he is not attracted to Jessica because she doesn't work out every day. And he says that their intimacy feels awkward and he's not 90 and he wants more activity and they don't have that physical chemistry. Somehow he thinks that by finishing sentences with
Without sounding like a dickhead.
he won't, but we actually know that he is and he does sound like one. Jessica unfortunately says that she feels blindsided and she is heartbroken, but thankfully she says that while packing her bags and she leaves. And honestly, this was the best decision of the season because, believe it or not, Chris said that he wants to actually finish the experiment, even though he made all those remarks about not being attracted to Jessica. But let's cleanse the energy a bit and talk about Vic and Christine, who are honestly my favorite watch so far. They are healthy, stable, and they look really beautiful and they seem to be getting along really well together. We see them meeting Christine's mom and she gives them her instant approval. And in the confessional, she actually says that she finds Vic hot. They all pray together and they have real conversations about kids, about race, about life values. And Christine's mom says that she is so proud of them and she admires them both for their education, for their studies, and for how they found each other in the experiment. We also see Vic and Christine visiting each other's hometowns. We see them play tennis and just exist peacefully. And this feels like a real couple. And that's such a rare thing on this show. I'm so happy to see that for Vic and Christine. Ashley and Alex. Ashley and Alex, on the other hand, are all over the place. Their main issues are moving cities because remember, Alex actually doesn't live in Cleveland and he doesn't want to move to Cleveland and he has a nomad lifestyle, but also some other jobs on the line in Arizona or Florida. They also have a bit of a communication issue. They don't seem to be getting each other's points completely. Lastly, there's also the topic of trust. Ashley still feels like she cannot fully trust him, especially after her experiences with her cheating ex. We see the couple meeting Ashley's family for dinner, and Ashley's dad immediately starts grilling Alex with a lot of questions, and his stories don't seem to hold really well. In the confessional, actually, Ashley's dad says that he likes the guy. He seems like a nice, smart guy, but he doesn't seem like a really honest guy. Overall, Ashley and Alex fight a lot about effort, about intimacy, about miscommunication, timing, where they're gonna live. And as I was watching, I had the feeling that Ashley is trying to gather more and more evidence just so that she can justify her walking out at the altar. So for me, this was obvious from the beginning that I don't feel like it's working. Mike and Emma. Mike and Emma are cute. They seem to be supportive and warm with each other, but there is still one massive issue, and the only thing they talk about throughout this experiment, and that is kids. Mike keeps saying that he needs them because everyone in his life has kids and he definitely needs them. And Emma still says that she doesn't know if she's ready or if she will ever want to have kids. I'm still confused at this point while watching because these are fundamental issues and they don't seem to be treating them seriously. And they're on the mentality of we see it when we get there, or were they actually forced by the show to go to the altar? I'm not sure, but it's obvious that things are not going as they should be. I don't think that you can compromise on whether you want to have kids or not. Remember the Josie and Gunnar conversation, and because this is a core value and it's going to matter later. So just saying we'll get there when we get there, I guess it works, but it's also quite confusing. Amber and Jordan. Amber and Jordan are really sweet together, and we see them laughing a lot. We see them bonding. We see them visiting each other's homes. And we actually learn that they met each other's families off camera as well. Remember, Amber has a daughter, so Jordan met Emma's father off camera, and everything is fine. But they seem to be having some hurdles because Jordan says he doesn't want to move out of Columbus to a smaller place that doesn't have bars and pubs he can hang out to. And for Amber, it's also more difficult to move because she would have to move her daughter as well and change her school. And that is the problem they are facing. And it's difficult if none of them is willing to compromise. And naturally, for Amber, it's not only herself she would have to compromise, she would have to take her daughter in consideration as well. So it remains to be seen. But for now, things seem quite unsure with this couple. Bree and Connor. This one is actually really tricky because the couple has huge chemistry. They have a fun banter, fun energy. But Brie constantly critiques Connor. For instance, when they went to visit each other's homes, she saw his apartment and she started saying,
This is a frat boy house with a boy keg and a boy bat cave.
which was borderline disrespectful for me. She also talks about his lifestyle and his ambitions, and she starts wondering at some points whether he's not as ambitious as she is and he's not as big of a go getter as she is. This is actually making me wonder, does Brie respect Connor or does she just enjoy the way she's being loved and treated by him? Because Connor is consistent and he keeps showing up to her that he loves her and he understands her and he's there for her. But that might not be enough for the relationship to survive. Brittany and Devante. This relationship feels so uneven because Brittany is all in and she is emotionally open. Remember, she's ready to get married and she has the dress to prove it. She is affectionate and she keeps complimenting Devante. But Devante, he is actually closed off and he seems to be putting low effort into this relationship. And he also offers her minimal reassurance. Brittany keeps reassuring him and she keeps reaffirming that he's her number one and she cannot wait to do this with him, while he's still offering two, three syllables at most. There's also a cute scene when they meet Brittany's family and Devonte actually has a conversation with his dad. His dad is 100% convinced and fully into this idea, and he jokingly asks Devonte to marry him. Now, when they come back, they make a joke as if the conversation went bad, and Devante pretends to leave quite sad. And I was already looking at the screen like, is this foreshadowing? Is Devante gonna actually do that? And yes, it was a bit of foreshadowing, in my opinion, because the night before the wedding, Devante brings up a prenup. Something that they haven't had any conversations before, or at least they didn't show any on camera. So now it seems very suspicious that you decide to bring a conversation like this the night before your wedding. The couple's meetup was by far the most chaotic part of this season, in my opinion. We first see Vic and Christine being really happy to see the other members of the cast. We then see other people showing up like Kia, Kivan, Tyler, and then we also see Chris walking in like nothing really happened. Meanwhile, the women in the room all look at him hatingly, and it is obvious that they don't like him. For me, my favorite part was definitely Amber roasting him. We also find out that not only does Chris buy his own followers, but he's also been DMing Brie late at night on Instagram. Also gets worse as the night progresses because he seems like he keeps drinking and he gets more and more intoxicated and he insults Jessica, he trashes their intimacy. But the worst thing in my opinion was the conversation that Chris had with Brie because they were talking and he kept hitting on her. He tried to flirt with her. He kept bringing Connor down as well. And Brie was still sitting there and listening to this man talk. I didn't understand why she kept inviting this behavior and she didn't just shut it down immediately and leave because that was not the place to be. Anyway, it was, in my opinion, an absolute train wreck. And I think that Shake from season 2 was officially dethroned, and we have a new Love is Blind villain king. It's the time for the weddings, and the first wedding we see is Emma and Mike's wedding. They are both quite nervous about the day, and it's very surprising for me that Emma says yes to Mike. Mike is asked about his answer, and unsurprisingly for me, he says no. He says in the confessionals that it was not enough for him that Emma said yes today. He needed to feel that she's sure about wanting kids. The next wedding we see is Amber and Jordan's, and there is so much tension because none of them are sure about the other person's answers. Jordan is really, really, really nervous about the day. And in the end, Amber says yes to him, but says, I understand if you don't feel the same. But surprise, surprise, Jordan says yes as well. Everyone in the audience is shocked, and I was a bit speechless, but also I was happy for them. Ashley and Alex's wedding, the only notable thing I can remember is the fact that Alex looked like he just rolled off the bed and he came to get married that day. His beard definitely deserved a bit of care. They get to the altar, and the officiant asks Alex to recite his vows, but Ashley stops him mid vows to say that she deserves better and that she is choosing herself and leaving the experiment without even hearing his answer first. But there are no weddings for Brittany and Devontae, but that is not surprising because he backed out last minute, and she still somehow believes in them, and she still thinks that they're still engaged and they will get married one day, and that is a bit concerning. There is no wedding for Brie and Connor either because Brie calls everything off. We don't get a clear answer as to why, but then we see Connor being very emotional and thankful for the show for offering him this opportunity to meet Brie. And finally, the last wedding of the season, Vic and Christine. Honestly, we all watched this show for them, right? For me, they're my favorite couple since Lauren and Cameron first season. Their wedding was so calm and genuine, and you could actually see these are people who are ready to get married. We see Christine meeting Vic's mom, and she has a letter that she wrote for her. We see Vic as well teaching his groomsmen how to do the electric slide, things that are actually happening during a wedding where people love each other. They both say yes, obviously, and they deserve so much happiness, in my opinion. My final thoughts pre reunion were that this season proves one thing, that love might be blind, but compatibility is very visible, and you cannot build a marriage on vibes, attraction, good intention, or how much you work out, or whether you have an ice bath or not. You actually need communication, you need emotional maturity and consistency. Some of these people showed up with none of that. Some of these people hopefully learned some of that during the show. And as always, I was really excited to watch these journeys once again on a Love is Blind season. Let's get into the reunion because this is where everything unravels even more. Starting with the obvious, Chris, he gets called out by literally everyone. The women express how disrespected they felt by the way he's talking and how little they want to deal with him. The men also distance themselves. Even mommy and daddy Lachey have some words for him, and I was all up for it. I think mommy Lachey says to him, I wish you all the best on your journey to become a better person. Honestly, Chris looked like someone that realized way too late how bad he came across. And I loved how Jessica handled it perfectly because she was calm, clear, and she was definitely done with him. And she basically told him, "Thank you for showing me who you are this early so I can get away." The real chaos, though, was Devante, in my opinion, because somehow it still got worse after the show. We first find out that he dragged the relationship out for 2 weeks. He didn't specifically tell Brittany that they are over, but he kind of started to step away from the relationship to the point of breaking up. He also lied to Brittany about where he was going, and he said that he's going on a business trip while he was actually going on a trip with some of the cast members, including Brie, Ashley, and Priyanka from the show. And lastly, he kept Brittany in emotional limbo, and she was still processing that in real time. Her dad also calls him out, and in my opinion, this was one of the strongest moments of the reunion because he says, "This isn't a game. Be the man you said you would be." Exactly. But also to top everything off, Devante announces that he is engaged and he's going to be a father soon, which for me was so unbelievable because it seems like you were just not ready to commit a few months ago and now you are engaged with a baby on the way. For Ashley and Alex, the truth finally comes out because Ashley confirms what we all saw. Alex's stories don't line up and never did. He kept adjusting details, he kept avoiding full transparency, and at some point that destroys trust. I don't think Mommy and Daddy Lachey managed to get to Alex either, and he keeps thinking that he acted exemplary and all he did was try to give it a shot. Brie and Connor are still together. This one really surprised me because they say they've grown and that they learned the differences between playful banter and actually putting someone down. But then Bree immediately goes back to joking about his apartment. So I'm like, have they really learned anything? Connor deserves a lot of credit, in my opinion, because he handled everything, including the situation with Chris, with a lot more grace than I would have. Amber and Jordan, not so happy ending. Even though they said yes at the altar, they still didn't make it. And honestly, it does make sense because the core issue of moving together and living together and committing and the trust were not actually resolved. Amber needed reassurance and Jordan needed space, and eventually the gap became too big between the two of them. Amber seemed really hurt during the reunion, and I was sad to see her so heartbroken by this experience. Jordan was also quite hurt as well, and I just hope that they can turn this experience into some learning opportunities. That sounded so corporate. And finally, Vic and Christine, who are, in my opinion, the winners, and like I said, the best couple since Lauren and Cameron. They are still together, they are still stable, and they are slightly unreal compared to everyone else. There is a moment where they are asked what is the biggest obstacle or issue they had so far, and Christine says that Vic has an Angry Birds addiction. It is obvious that this season needed to happen so that Vic and Christine can meet. But apart from Vicky and Christine, at the end of the day, this season wasn't about finding love. It was all about revealing people. In my opinion, this was a good watch. It showed us a lot of human traits that we should stay away from or we should cultivate more of. I would say that for Vic and Christine, I would give it a 10. But for the rest of the stories, I would give it a 2. Who casted these people? So in the end, this season is actually getting a 6 as my final grade. That's it for now. See you soon.